service. So when he cooks or do that, clean, I go, oh, honey, thank you for washing the dish.
So many times you think that the touch can only happen during the sexual act and the union between that husband and wife. But the touch could be in the small thing, many boxes. But you never know what's inside until you do what?
Open it.
Open it. All right, and then hold up this, and you'll see that there are other boxes are inside. And men, we need to be romantic. Keep it real.
Hello, I'm Angelique Bartholomew, and I want to welcome you to Keep It Real. This is our 36th episode. We're the co-host, Angelique Bartholomew, and my husband, Brian Bartholomew. And we are joined by none other than the Dr. K. So we want to first thank our sponsors for joining us and supporting us with this show today. Ms. Dorothy Cook and her holistic health and wellness products. We want to thank you, Dorothy, for supporting Keep It Real, and we really appreciate and value your support and sponsorship. Reach out to Ms. Dorothy for her products and wellness holistic health services. All right, we're going to open up really fast, you guys. We've been talking about marriage ministry, Brian, and on our last episode, we got into some of the biblical principles as it relates to marriage and the institution of marriage, and Dr. Case shared some words of wisdom. But we're going to delve into the things that really are playing a role in today's marriage related to marketplace and being able to maintain the relationship and the institution of marriage according to today's worldly standards and how things have really evolved biblically. So I want to open up with the question to ask Dr. K and Brian, my husband, who decides, Brian, how and what, who decides the role of what should be done in a marriage? How do you decide that?
Wow, Angelique, that's a very, 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 very good question and a complex question. I believe that if you respect each other, there's certain characteristics that each person has. Just because, the man is the man of the house, head of household, per se, doesn't mean that there are certain specific roles only. I think it should be a conversation really about the strengths and weaknesses that the person has. And if you complement each other, then there are certain strengths that one may have, and they may take those responsibilities, and vice versa. The weaknesses of one partner, then someone could elect to take that responsibility. I think also, just depending on the background or culturally how one is raised, there's certain specific roles that may lean more to one or the other. However, in today's times, the way it's a two-person household, or if it is a two-person household and maybe both parents or people are working, you may have to juggle the schedule and juggle things around a little bit. So again, it's really about communication and respecting each other and just trying to get things done in totality.
Awesome. Dr. K, do you have any input on that?
Well, Brian talked about the strengths and the weaknesses. You got to remember that marriage is a partnership, even though the man is the head and the woman is to help me. And therefore, back in the 50s, doing Beaver Cleaver and Marcus Welby, you remember those sitcoms?
Yeah.
The wife stayed in the home.
Stayed home.
And even though she may have been a professional woman, she stayed in the home. But things have changed and evolved. Fast forward to the 21st century. You use strengths and weaknesses. I like to use the word giftings and talents. If the husband doesn't have the talent to maintain finances, that he's going to shipwreck the finances of that home. And therefore, the woman, if she is more skilled at doing that, then by all means, she should do that and vice versa. So many times men want to be so macho, I'm the man. And the woman has no say and whatnot. But I'm giving you a story, and this really will sum it up. I remember going to Maryland when my late good friend was alive. I would go to his church sometimes 3 and 4 years times a year, and he had an armor bearer come pick me up, and I thought he sent him, but the armor bearer volunteered. He picks me up from BWI. I drive past his house. He lived out there where the Redskins at the time, the football team, they're called Commanders now, live, the Washington Wizard. And he took his wife and daughter, and then I thought he was going to take me to the hotel, and he said, do you mind if I take them home? And I was scratching my head, Brian and Angelique. He driving past my hotel to take me back. He wanted to see me. He wanted me to see his house, and he had a ministry to these football. They look like a museum with these big pictures on the wall and everything. But here's the crux of the story. He wanted that private time to me to tell me, with me, to tell me, the Lord was speaking to me to quit my job. And I didn't have the courage to tell my wife. Now, they communicated, and therefore they were partners. But, she had a good government job. And so finally he was praying. The Lord said, go tell your wife. And she said these 3 words, I'm in agreement. He tenders his 2 weeks notice, doesn't have 30 years, so he will get what you call now severance. But when he leaves, the boss comes to him, gives him an envelope. He thought it was his severance pay. He said, I hate to lose you. You're a good employee, and you will become our first contractor, $2.5 million, all because his wife said, I'm in agreement. So the two must agree. And so you can't say, well, you do this because you're the man, you do this because of the woman, because you're probably smarter than Brian. I know Joe is smarter than me. All right?
Well, I really appreciate that. In terms of just like, how it's determined and how much the agreement really matters, and really I think Brian, we have established our roles, so to speak, and people don't like to use that term anymore, especially today's, women's world. But it's literally essentially what you put on to ensure that your house is moving forward. So if it's pants and you need to wear them that day or whatever, wear them. If it's a dress and you need to wear them that day, wear them. But you're going to have to do what it takes in that relationship to really keep the marriage moving forward and the relationship moving forward.
You remember when you were on YouTube, we had you as a special guest, and we had calls from Egypt and Argentina, and they asked you all questions, and then they commented of how they appreciated what you said as the wife. You did what it took to keep the food on the table. Men sometimes they will come between a rock and a hard
Absolutely.
place and whatnot. So here it was. You got out, went to the workforce. Now here's a caveat. Now we have today. I think there are seasons. Oftentimes, unless you have to work, women, you get out to work. But if you have small kids, they need your attention.
Absolutely.
And therefore, you should be there with them. Now, I'm not saying that you stay barefooted and pregnant and all of that, but that I feel like as a minister, I do not go and have the right to tell a man. In fact, at one base, I had a lot of men attending church. A lot of black men don't attend church. I respected them. You know what I told their wives? I am your spiritual covering. Your husband is your head. Mm-hmm. And more of those men appreciated this.
I think that's really important, and I do want to acknowledge, my husband for just being able to allow me to be in both roles, or when necessary, fill the gaps, because I was able to be, fortunately, very blessed to be at home early on with our children, and then really pick up my career a bit later. So that leads me to the question of how equitable or how is equity, how do you determine equity in your marriage? Brian, how equitable is our marriage?
Wow.
How much does equity really play a role in the marriage?
I think that we all have tremendous value, and we have to look at the value that we have, and we have to be true to ourselves, and we have to be comfortable in that skin. whatever it may be. And sometimes we're just uncomfortable with who we are. Maybe we haven't attained where, we think we should be, and we're just not comfortable in that spot. So when it comes to equity in a relationship, in a marriage, you said it's a partnership, Dr. K. And if you can support each other and you have common goals and you're moving towards those goals, it may not be in the timeline or at the pace that you believe that it should be, but yet still you're moving towards that goal. It relies on confidence within yourself. Confidence, to answer your question, within yourself that, you know what, I'm doing the best that I can, and we're going to continue. We're committed to this relationship and to the goals, and therefore there's no price tag on that level of equity.
That's really good. That really stands out when you think about just overall character and what you have to give and take in the marriage. I mean, what do you think, Dr. K?
Well, I use it as a bank account. You can't draw out of the bank what you don't put in. If you don't pour into him in deposit and he doesn't pour into you, there's no equity in the marriage. And it's sad today, a lot of marriages are bankrupt.
Very good, very
and
good.
Therefore, I get back to the 5 languages of love. There is acts of service, there's that physical touch, words of affirmation, quality time, and gifts. And whatever that love language is, my wife she loves service. But you can also serve your husband based on what your love language is also. Like sometimes I would say to her, honey, do you have to go to another women's prayer meeting or retreat and whatnot? I'm here. And, or if I'm getting ready to go, I go and do leadership training and whatnot. And if I'm going to be gone for a week, I want you to spend that weekend with me and balance this. And maybe you, while I'm gone, can go the next week to whatever. So you got to pour into one another, serve one another based on your love language.
That's really, really good.
Powerful.
It's a great segue into the next question about maintaining the priorities and balancing the ministry that the couple has or believes is their ministry and the marketplace in the marriage. Brian and I are partners in a business. We have our own independent businesses that we run and operate, and then of course we have the children and our family. So having balance through in the marriage, time for each other, creating the balance in ministry, time for God and together and everything, and of course the business of marriage, because even the business of marriage it requires balance and maintaining. And in an entrepreneurial situation, it's even more demanding, because of course it's easy, just as a minister is with a church, he's almost married sometimes to that church, and we tend to be married to our businesses. How do you create, Brian, that balance, or how do we create that balance? Are we balanced right now? I don't know if we're balanced. I mean, I might not want this like other, but are we balanced? Let's be for real. Are we balanced?
No pretense.
Yeah.
Keep it real.
Keep it real. That's why we call it Keep It Real.
Are we really
Sister
balanced?
Joy said keep it real.
All right, we're going to keep it real. I think you and I try really hard to keep a balance.
Yeah.
But there's so many demands placed on us, even like right now, our kids are calling and, this and that, so between the kids, between the demands of work, trying to bring resources into the household, sometimes we focus so much on that we compromise on maybe going to the gym, taking time out for ourselves, or sitting down together and just having a meal, so to answer your question, are we balanced? I think we try really hard to be balanced, and we recognize when we're out of balance. And before it becomes, really serious, we try to do something about that. We reckon, you know what, we need to get away. We just need to take a day. We need to go, spend a night at a friend's like we just did, go to a game, do something together to reconnect, because there's so many distractions today, as we all know. There's so many distractions vying for our time that sometimes we may take our spouse for granted.
Right,
and that's when trouble happens.
Let me just say this, and this is just an inside joke now. Brian needed to get away, and I took him to a Texan game. I didn't have.
Early in the season, Dr. K.
And so that's right.
I'm going to bring that up.
She'll get to go. So I wanted to go see her alma mater, Alabama, play, and she got back at me. No, I'm just kidding. But let me just share about the equity. You're talking about now the balancing, and I see that so many times we have this hierarchy: God, marriage, family, children, ministry, and work. I think if you make it secular and it's just like a clock, there are going to be times you have to give to God. There are going to be times you have to give to children. And therefore, nobody is missing out. Because maybe your children need that first priority if they're young and they're a baby and whatnot. But yet still later on at night, before everything is done, you give God his time. But you can become so rigid. And therefore, another thing too, a man has to be secure within who he is. And you got to be seasoned. She may make more money because of her skill sets, because of her competency, her her education. And so that's all right. If you want to bring in the 7 figures, I'll stay home. When you come home, your bath water's ready, rose petal leaving to the bed and bathtub. All right. And then I will have your meal cooked. I do this for joy and whatnot. In fact, I'm the cook in the house. And I'm glad, Mama, you taught me how to cook. Because sometimes you may get a wife that she's so busy because of her vocation, she will not cook. And same in church, pastors. You can bankrupt yourself and there's no equity because you are giving to everybody and you don't give to your spouse and your children. And then when you come crashing down, your family is there for you. So put it on a cyclic, make it a cyclic model where you got all of them, balance it, and then be secure with yourself. Because there are some women ministers now that's more anointed than the men. And therefore, yes, my wife, she is really anointed. But when we went to Florida she ministered, she tore that church up. And I'm not talking about, that's a slang, figure of speed. And the men came up to me and said, I like how you honored your wife and you served her. You put her Bible and you went up there and you got it. And when she came in, you carried a lot of stuff. Well, men, what you sow in the morning, you're going to reap at night.
Awesome. Oh, my goodness.
Very well said, Dr. K. Very well said. And, for a lot of men out there, you may be one that's listening today or watching this program today, the male ego, that's something that you're really indirectly talking about. The male ego says that you have to be the breadwinner, you have to be the head of household, you have to take on all the responsibilities and everything relies on you. And I know I've said that to you, Angelique, several times, and culturally that puts a lot of pressure, on me, which in turn puts pressure on my wife. So to have a woman that wants to go counter to that, and I try to, hey babe, I encourage, I support whatever you want to do. I'm going to encourage you to go out there and do it. I never stop you from doing that, and I'm comfortable with, hey, as you said, if you want to make 7 figures and you can do that, that's fine, I'll be home. In fact, we agreed I used to be the one out there and she used to be the one at home. She says, I want to bring you home to do certain things. The last 2 kids really need you, and I want you to focus on that and do your thing, do your real estate. I'm okay with that.
And I think, I know that it's the couple's decisions
yes,
of how your household is going to operate and run. how Miss Cleaver did it back in the 50s may not work in the 21st.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
See what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And another thing too is that oftentimes is that we're talking about, we feel it's the ego, the insecurity, etc. And therefore, you got to, women are empowered now.
Yes.
And therefore, after being, your children are your empty nest, and that woman wants to go out there and be in the workplace, and you encourage her.
Yes.
You say, you go, baby.
Yeah.
And I'm smiling all the way as she's going to the bank.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, we got to understand headship and helpership.
Yes.
And like, that still reverberates with me when you said, I did what it took. A true woman will do what it takes. What if your husband is sick? I've known some husbands are invalids, and they can't work. And that woman goes out and she has to do everything. But you got to celebrate her man, and you got to salute her
Absolutely.
for all that she does. Every now and then, I got to get back to it. It's been 2 months now. I haven't brought flowers. Every week I would have flowers in the house.
Say it one more time, Dr.
Every week I would have flowers in the house.
Ladies.
Okay, and they love that. They love flowers. They love little gifts.
Absolutely, we do.
Yes, they
All
do.
right.
I think that I mean, literally, Brian and I just had the conversation about, what does it take for a woman to continue to give, like to continue to be available. And I think in a lot of ways it's the man's role to put her in the position of giving and always being available. And that comes from the mental and emotional balance that she needs while trying to really carry on all of the other things and all of the other weights that she bears. I think that, of course, making ourselves available to our husbands and being there for them is really a mindset first. And I think that becomes a priority to maintain the marriage when it gets so busy.
Right.
When you're juggling kids, you're juggling work, you're juggling marriage, from a woman's perspective, nothing really happens until it comes here to go here.
And this isn't going to be X-rated, but especially in the sex act.
Yeah.
Women are so tired, and man, you got to come home, you got to bust suds. All right? That's not ebonics. You need to wash dishes after she has cooked, or you get in the kitchen and cook. Now, men it's been said, that they need to ejaculate sperm every 3 days.
Yes,
so,
we just heard that in our marriage ministry.
Right, and the marriage ministry. So men want sex, but if your woman's tired, what are you going to do? And therefore, you got to pour into her, and you got to bring that negligee. Go to Victoria's Secrets and come on, hint, hint, hint. And therefore, romance your marriage. So many embers have gone out in marriages. And therefore, that's when they go get a spare tire. And you think greener pastures is there. But I know women that men said, man, they were the scum of the earth, they cheated and everything, but that woman stood by her man, and they got saved and whatnot. I would like to, you probably get to this, but when we are model, and therefore our children are watching us, and therefore I want to ask you two, how do we leave a legacy, and how do we leave a footprint of a biblical blueprint marriage?
Awesome.
Well, I can say one of the main reason initially why I married Angelique is other than she's beautiful and things like that, she's smart and intelligent, was she was emblematic of family. Family was the key. I was,
Player.
No, that's not what I was saying. I didn't grow up with any siblings. I'm my mom and dad's only child, together. So it was very lonely. And I hated that. I detested that. So I said, I would never do that. So I wanted the opposite. So yeah.
Okay.
Angelique was one of 10. I said, oh my God. How did that work? So immediately I knew I wanted a big family, and she was like, no, I don't want a big family. Okay. But talking about legacy, the main thing for me is I wanted to set an example counter to what I experienced. My mom and dad got divorced. We also both were divorced one time. I said, I don't want to do that again. I want something that's going to be stable, that's family, that we can demonstrate to our kids. One thing that we did was put everything together in a group chat. Hey, you guys must communicate and maintain a relationship all the time. Mm-hmm. And we have continued that, and today when they come together, whether they're 26 years old or 15 years old, they all come together and they just love on each other.
I think that's definitely a point that we can leave with the audience, to connect family and to maintain that legacy of connectivity. Communicating with the family on a consistent and daily basis is something that I think we really are proud of, that God gave us to maintain the spiritual connection, but also just the day-to-day connection. I mean, we put crazy stuff in the text, we put our hard days in the text, but it allows us as a family to stay on one accord. And if there were something that I would say is truly a legacy and a blueprint or a family blueprint, it's the very same thing that my mom passed down to me. And I just said this to Brian this morning. A family that prays together stays together. And I would encourage parents and families to give each other a scripture. My kids each have a scripture that they know that we can say together. I mean, my youngest has it inscribed on his varsity jacket. You know, my mom's scripture is mine, you know, Psalms 121 and Jeremiah 29:11 and Joshua 9:5. It's a matter of really understanding where that child is and giving them something to hold on spiritually. And I think that helps.
All right. I'm going to just give 2 words for leaving a legacy. And then I want you to put up Brian's and Angelique's bio so they will see who they are. There they are. They're owners of ROI Property Solutions and entrepreneurs. And we have full confidence in them. They have done a great job. So let's give them a big hand.
Thank you, Dr.
And whatnot. But this
Thank
is
you.
how you leave a legacy. Men, love your children's mother. And then if you are divorced, get along as friends. You know, anybody can come together and make a baby, but that doesn't mean you were compatible to be married with one another, and it's not the child's fault. And then you got to remember that you can be friends because they love both of you. They're a product from both of you. And then also, if you did something wrong at the appropriate time, go and admit it to your children. Let them know that it's not them. So many children carry this bondage and baggage. It was because of me that mom and dad's not together, and you're not the one.
That's correct.
Also, we want you to, like I said, let's support them. And if you would like to be a sponsor, if you could put our Keep It Real up there. If you want real estate, now I got them looking for real estate property for me, but there's their social media handle. And then to Keep It Real, and then we're going to let Angelique close. If you can put up our Keep It Real. The telephone number there, 346-813-0222. We'll have about 46 episodes by the end of December, so we still have the month of November and December where we need sponsors. Give us a call, and we'll tell you it's very economical. You get to showcase your products and your services. Dorothy, her products are selling over in South Africa, so we want you to keep it real. Angelique, you did a great job.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Thank you, babe.
Thank you, Dr. K.
Let's
keep it real.
Okay, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Keep it real.